Hello, everyone, and welcome back to IRL Lore with me, as always, the enigmatic Mr. S. Today we will be looking at a text called Ereshkigal and Nergal. It's a weird one, and hard to find, and weirdly, in my travels, I've found two fairly different translations containing alternate details. I suppose this may be a consequence of this story being found on two tablets at Tel al-Amarna in Egypt in the late 1800s, one of said tablets ending up at some museum in London, while the other ended up similarly museumed in Berlin, where they both remain today, as far as I'm aware. Whatever the case may be, both translations have roughly the same story beats and consequences, but one contains considerably more information, if also more repetition. So that's the one I've chosen to start with today. I'll do my best to cut out the repetition while maintaining the extra content, and we will also be double-checking and filling in with details from cuneiform parallels, which contains a more truncated form of this same text, but also has transliteration, which is always helpful. Let's begin. Inanna and Ereshkigal. When the gods prepared a feast, Anu made his voice heard. He addressed his words to Kaka. Kaka, I shall send you to Kernugi. You must speak thus to Ereshkigal, saying, It is impossible for you to come up. In your year you cannot come up to see us, and it is impossible for us to go down. In our months we cannot go down to see you. Let your messenger come, and take from the table. Let him accept a present for you. I shall give something to him to present to you. Right away we get the context and setting, if not exactly where to place it in the timeline. The gods are having a feast in heaven, and, due to some timing incompatibility, Ereshkigal is unable to make it up from her station planet-side to attend. Anu seeks to ensure she gets a plate regardless, and sends his footman, named Kaka, to deliver it. Kaka went down the long stairway of heaven. When he reached the gate of Ereshkigal, he said, Gatekeeper, open the gate to me. Kaka, come in, and may the gate bless you. He let the god Kaka in through the first gate. It here repeats the formula for 6 more gates. Then, he entered into her spacious courtyard. He knelt down and kissed the ground in front of her. He straightened up, stood, and addressed her. Anu, your father sent me to say... At this point, he repeats the formula about impossible to go up or down, come to the table, accept a present. Ereshkigal made her voice heard and spake. She addressed her words to Kaka. O messenger of Anu, our father, you who have come to us, may peace be with Anu, Enlil, and Ea, the great gods. May peace be with Nemu and Nash, the pure goddesses. May peace be with the husband of the Lady of Heaven. May peace be with Ninurta, champion in the land. Kaka repeats that formula almost verbatim back to her to assure her that they are all with peace. Ereshkigal made her voice heard and spake. She addressed her words to her vizier, Namtar. O Namtar, my vizier, I shall send you to the heaven of our father Anu. Namtar, go up the long stairway of heaven, take from the table and accept a present from me. Whatever Anu gives to you, you must present to me. So the gods often have a lot of meetings and banquets and stuff like that, and it's usually not as explicit about where the meeting is taking place. In heaven, in this case, the heaven of Anu. It makes me wonder, are there various heavens? Like, I believe that's a concept present in Hinduism as well. What could these heavens, these realms, represent? Somewhere in the sky that has matter reconfabulators and can make whatever you want and has all this super cool stuff. I'm not sure, just something to think about. About 26 lines are missing here. And in that lacuna, we can only speculate about what occurs. From the cuneiform parallels translation, it would seem Nergal is in trouble because he would not stand for Namtar. While up next, in this translation that we're reading now, he appears to refuse to kneel. Either way, disrespect is shown. Continuing. Ea addresses Nergal. Lacuna. Lacuna path lacuna. The gods are kneeling together before him, the great gods, the lords of destiny, for it is he who controls the rights of Lacuna, the gods who dwell within Irkala. Why do you not kneel before him? I keep winking at you, but you pretend not to realize, and Lacuna. 6 lines missing. It's the little details like this, and they're usually from Ea, I love it. Like, I've seen a version of the flood story where the gods are being sworn to secrecy against warning mortals of the coming deluge, and it says something like, Enki so did swear, but behind his back caused his fingers to cross. I can't help, it makes it so I can't help but picture the scene, like, the weird grinning goat of Nergal just stand-maxing like a total Sigma Chad when all the other gods are kneeling, and the ever-affable Ea is just like, dude, dude, just like loudly winking at him. Now we go back to the text. It's broken for a few lines. Nergal addressing Ea, apparently expressing a wish to visit Ereshkigal. Lacuna, I will rise to my feet. Lacuna, you said. Lacuna will double it. When Ea heard this, he said to himself, Lacuna. Then Ea made his voice heard and spake. He addressed his words to Nergal. My son, you shall go on the journey you want to make. Lacuna, grasp a sword in your hand. Go cut down the forest of Misu trees. Cut down the Misu trees, Tiaru trees, and juniper. Break off Kanaktu trees and Simberu trees. When Nergal heard this, he took an axe up in his hand, drew the sword from his belt, went down to the forest of Misu trees, cut down the Misu trees, Tiaru trees, and juniper, broke off Kanaktu trees and Simberu trees. Lacuna, he made a throne for far-sighted Ea. He painted it with lacuna as a substitute for silver, painted it with yellow paste and red paste as a substitute for gold, painted it with a blue glaze as a substitute for lapis lazuli. The work was finished, the chair complete. Then he, Ea, called out and laid down instructions for him. My son, about the journey which you want to make, from the moment you arrive, follow whatever instructions I give you. From the moment they bring a chair to you, do not go to it, do not sit upon it. When the baker brings you bread, do not go to it, do not eat the bread, etc. for meat, etc. for beer, etc. for foot baths. When she, Ereshkigal, has been to the bath, and dressed herself in a fine robe, allowing you to glimpse her body, Lacuna, you must not do that which men and women do. So, Nergal makes a sweet chair for Enki, and in return Enki gives him the advice he needs to survive the lower world. This does not appear in cuneiform parallels. Instead, here it describes Enki simply giving Nergal the double 7 for free. These double 7 being smart weapons or Galu demons or something, which are periodically referenced in various form throughout the corpus. From cuneiform parallels. I will give thee 7 and 7 to go with thee, Lacuna. Ba mutabriku, Sharabdu, Rabisu, Tirid, Idiptu, Benu, Sidanu, Mikit, Belupri, Umu, Libu, Lacuna, with thee shall they go. You know what, I'm actually just going to finish out this version in cuneiform parallels because it's fairly short, then return to the other translation for comparison. They both turn out roughly the same. Pages will be on screen for 5 seconds each at the end of the video for reference. Starting halfway through line 51, when Nergal came to the door of Ereshkigal, he called, Porter, Lacuna, thy door, Lacuna, unlock. I would enter before thy lady Ereshkigal. I am sent. The porter went away. He said to Namtaru, a god is standing at the entrance to the door. Come look at him. Come, look at him, whether he may enter. Namtar went out. He looked at him. Lacuna, he said to his lady, My lady, it is the god who in former months disappeared, who did not arise before me. Bring him, Lacuna, he shall not go. I will slay him. Namtar went out. Lacuna, enter, my lord. Into the house of thy sister, Lacuna, thy departure. Nergal answered, May thy heart rejoice in me. About 3 lines missing. Lacuna, he stationed when he entered the second door. Lacuna ba at the 5th, Mutabriku at the 4th, Sharabdu at the 5th, Rabisu at the 6th, Tirid at the 7th, Idiptu at the 8th, Benu at the 9th, Sidanu at the 10th, Mikit at the 11th, Belupri at the 12th, Umu at the 13th, Libu at the 14th door he stationed as his Lacuna. In the court he cut down Namtaru. To his warriors he gave command, The doors shall be opened. Look, else I will break out upon you. Within the house he seized Ereshkigal by the hair, bent her down from the throne to the ground to cut off her head. "Kill me not, my brother. I will speak a word with thee." Nergal hearkened. His hands relaxed. She wept and sobbed. "Thou shalt be my husband. I will be thy wife. I will give thee to seize sovereignty over the wide earth. I will set the tablet of wisdom in thy hand. Thou shalt be lord, I will be lady." When Nergal heard her word, he seized her, kissed her, and wiped away her tears. "What hast thou wished from me, from distant months until now?" Okay, so that's the truncated cuneiform parallels version. Pretty cool how Nergal sets the double 7 at the gates to prevent his being trapped like Inanna was. But that raises the question, does this take place before or after the death of Gugalana and the resulting events, i.e., Inanna's capture, release, and the death of Dumuzi, or maybe somewhere in the middle of all that drama? It's sadly inconclusive. Part of me wants to say after, because it seems like the events of that later text could have handily provided motive for informing the other gods' ire towards Ereshkigal, her increasing distance and thus Nergal's aggression. But we simply do not know. Regardless, Nergal murks Ereshkigal's ghost bouncer, and is about to behead her when she casts a level 99 spell of Pussy Pass. Nergal rolls a 1 on his horny check and agrees to be her husband as king of the underworld. Nergal is one of my favorites, and has some of the best, coolest epithets, but this is just mediocre. If may be understandable that even the best of us can succumb to temptation, Ereshkigal at Irkalla potentially being kind of like the Nephilim equivalent of the goth chick who works at GameStop. Sorry, digressing. But could this, as well as the motivations for his disrespect and coming down in the first place, have to do with the problem of, quote, going native I've mentioned? The opportunity to have a whole planet for yourself would likely be tempting, even a remote and backwater planet like the one in question. I'm sure I don't know, but I have some suspicions, and there's always more to learn, so let's read on. Now returning to the alternate, or the translation we began with, the one that's not cuneiform parallels to the Old Testament. Nergal set his face towards Kernugi, to the dark house, dwelling of Irkalla's god, to the house which those who enter cannot leave, on the road where traveling is one way only, to the house where those who enter are deprived of light, where dust is their food, clay their bread, they are clothed like birds with feathers, they see no light, they dwell in darkness, they moan like doves. The end of that last passage is very common in descriptions of the lower world, and seems to be nearly exactly the same description from Enkidu's vision in the Gilgamesh epic, and also appears in Inanna's Descent text as well, or in a version of it. The gatekeeper opened his mouth and addressed his words to Nergal. "I must take back a report about the god standing at the door." The gatekeeper entered and addressed his words to Ereshkigal. "My lady, a Lacuna has come to see us. Lacuna will identify him." Ereshkigal made her voice heard, and spake to Namtar. "Lacuna." Namtar replied, "Let me identify him. Let me Lacuna him at the outer gate. Let me bring back to my lord a description of him." Namtar went, and looked at Ira in the shadow of the cut door. Namtar's face went livid as a cut tamarisk. His lips grew dark as the rim of a Kuninu vessel. Namtar went and addressed his lady. "My lady, when you sent me to your father, when I entered the courtyard of Anu, all the gods were kneeling, humbled before him. All the gods of the land were kneeling, humbled before him. The gods rose to their feet in my presence. Now they, Nergal, have gone down to Kernugi." Ereshkigal made her voice heard and spake, addressed her words to Namtar. "My dear Namtar, you should not seek Elil power, nor should you desire to do heroic deeds. What, come up and sit on the throne of the royal dais? You perform the judgments of the broad earth? Should I go up to heaven of Anu, my father? Should I eat the bread of the Anunnaki? Should I drink the water of the Anunnaki? Go, and bring the god into my presence." See what I mean about the gods reaching for more lofty, pun intended, authority than their station permits? I also like her "does a bear practice Catholicism in the woods" sort of rhetorical questions. Namtar went and let in the gods, Era. He let Nergal in through the first gate of Nidu. This repeats for the next 6 gates of Enkishar, Endashurima, Enurala, Endukuga, Endushuba, and Ennugigi. He came down into the broad courtyard, and he knelt down, kissed the ground in front of her. He straightened up, stood, and addressed her. Anu, your father sent me to see you, saying, sit down on that throne, judge the cases of the great gods who live within Erkala. So now we see this translation provide a motivation both for Nergal's trip and for his earlier seeming disrespect. He has been granted lordship over the lower world by Anu, and is here to take his place. He did not kneel for the same reason a king does not kneel to another king. As soon as they brought him to a throne, he did not go to it, and did not sit on it. At this point, it relays him following Enki's warnings. And when she went to the bath, he resisted his heart's desire to do what men and women do. About 13 lines missing, Nergal lacuna, she went to the bath, and dressed in a fine robe, and allowed him to catch a glimpse of her body. He gave in to his heart's desire to do what men and women do. The two embraced each other and went passionately to bed. They lay there, Queen Ereshkigal and Era, for a first day, and a second day, then a third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. When the 7th day arrived, Nergal, without lacuna, took away after him lacuna. Let me go, and my sister lacuna. Do not make me tremble, lacuna. Let me go now, and I will return to Kernugi later. Her mouth turned dark with rage, lacuna. Nergal went, and made his voice heard, and spake. He addressed his speech to the gatekeeper. Ereshkigal your lady sent me, saying, I am sending you to the heaven of Anu, our father, so let me be allowed out. The message, lacuna. Nergal came up along the long stairway of heaven. When he arrived at the gate of Anu, Elil, and Ea, Anu, Elil, and Ea saw him, and said, the son of Ishtar has come back to us. She, Ereshkigal, will search for him, and lacuna. Ea, his father, must sprinkle him with spring water, and bareheaded, blinking and cringing, let him sit in the assembly of the gods. So Nergal is apparently reborn. After some badly broken lines, Ereshkigal is crazed with grief over losing Nergal, and seeks to have him back. Ereshkigal lacuna, to the bath lacuna, her body lacuna, she called out lacuna, the chair lacuna. Sprinkle the room with the water of lacuna is repeated 3 times. The lacuna of 2 daughters, Lamashtu and Enmeshara, sprinkle with the waters of lacuna. The messenger of Anu our father who came to see us shall eat our bread and drink our water. Namtar made his voice heard, and spake, addressed his words to Ereshkigal his lady. The messenger of Anu our father who came to see us, before daylight, he disappeared. Ereshkigal cried aloud, grievously fell from the throne to the ground, then straightened up from the ground. Her tears flowed down her cheeks. Era, the lover of my delight, I did not have enough delight with him before he left. Era, the lover of my delight, I did not have enough delight with him before he left. Namtar made his voice heard and spake, addressed his words to Ereshkigal. Send me to Anu your father, and let me arrest the god. Let me take him to you, that he may kiss you again. Ereshkigal made her voice heard and spake, addressed her words to Namtar her vizier. Go, Namtar, you must speak to Anu, Elil, and Ea. Set your face towards the gate of Anu, Elil, and Ea. To say, ever since I was a child and a daughter, I have not known the playing of other girls. I have not known the romping of children. That God, whom you sent to me, and whom has impregnated me, let him sleep with me again. Send that God to us, and let him spend the night with me as my lover. I am unclean, and I am not pure enough to perform the judging of the great gods who dwell within Erkala. If you do not send that God to me, according to the rights of Erkala and the great earth, I shall raise up the dead, and they will eat the living. I shall make the dead outnumber the living. And so here we see the same line attributed to Ishtar in her descent text from cuneiform parallels. I guess one way or the other, spoken by Ereshkigal here or Inanna there, the line appears in this cycle. See what I mean about these 2nd and 3rd generation gods going native and running Earth like it's their own personal playground? If it's not Marduk convincing a bunch of fanatics he's the one true only god, or Ishtar riding an endless wave of caveman D and empowering a series of unstable gigachads to wreak havoc, or Dumuzi with whatever he was doing that was apparently bad enough to get killed over, then it's big titty goth GF here with her zombie army. Moving on. Namtar came up the long stairway of heaven. When he arrived at the gate of Anu, Elil, and Ea, Anu, Elil, and Ea saw him and said, What have you come for, Namtar? Your daughter sent me, to say, ever since I was a child, And at this point it repeats her threat verbatim. Ea made his voice heard and spake, addressed his words to Namtar. Enter, Namtar, to the court of Anu. Search out your wrongdoer and bring him. When he entered the court of Anu, all the gods were kneeling humbly before him. All the gods of the land were kneeling humbly before him. He went straight up to one, but did not recognize that god. He went up to a second, and a third, but did not recognize those gods either. Namtar went and addressed his words to his lady. My lady, about your sending me up to the heaven of Anu your father. My lady, there was only one god who sat bareheaded, blinking and cringing at the assembly of the gods. Go seize that god and bring him to me. Ea, his father, sprinkled him with spring water, and he is sitting in the assembly of all the gods, bareheaded, blinking and cringing. Namtar came up the long stairway of heaven. When he reached the gate of Anu, Elil, and Ea, they asked, What have you come for, Namtar? Your daughter has sent me, to say, Seize that god and bring him to me. Then enter, Namtar, the courtyard of Anu, and search out your wrongdoer and take him. He went straight up to one god, but did not recognize him. He went straight up to a second and a third, but did not recognize them either. Then Lacuna made his voice heard and spake, addressed his words to Ea. Let Namtar, the messenger who has come to us, drink our water, wash, and anoint himself. From here, the text becomes pretty badly broken for a while. I apologize in advance for saying Lacuna so much, but on the other side of it we will get another more in-depth look at the violent concluding events of the tale, in line with the greater detail and more romantic themes of this version. 15 lines missing. He is not to strip off Lacuna. Ira, Lacuna. I shall, Lacuna. Namtar made his voice heard and spake, addressed his words to Era. Era, Lacuna. All the rights of the great underworld, Lacuna. When you go from Lacuna, you shall carry the chair, Lacuna. It then repeats, you shall carry Lacuna 5 times. Lacuna of an entire line. Do not grapple with him lest he bind your chest. Era took to heart the speech of Namtar. He, Lacuna, oiled his strap and slung his bow. Nergal went down the long stairway of heaven. When he arrived at the gate of Ereshkigal, he said, Gatekeeper, open Lacuna. He struck down Nidu, the doorman of the first gate, and did not let him grapple with him. He struck down the second doorman, not letting him grapple, and repeated this for the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh doorman, and entered the wide courtyard. He went up to her and laughed. He seized her by her hairdo and pulled her from the throne. He seized her by her tresses, Lacuna. The two embraced each other and went passionately to bed. They lay there, at Queen Ereshkigal and Era, for a first day, through to 6 days. When the 7th day arrived, Anu made his voice heard and spoke, addressed his words to Kaka, his vizier. Kaka, I shall send you to Kernugi, to the home of Ereshkigal who dwells within Irkala, to say, that God whom I sent you, forever Lacuna, those above Lacuna, those below Lacuna. About 20 to 25 lines missing at end. So there you have it, Ereshkigal and Nergal in full. Pretty similar to the other translation. I guess my last thought is one not even super duper related to the passage I just read, but rather something unrelated that occurred to me while reading it. In the previous text of this Ereshkigal cycle, the one featuring Inanna, there's a lot more information given about how these Galu demons, mentioned heavily in these texts, operate. One detail that doesn't appear, though, it does in Gilgamesh when they encounter Huava, is the way these creatures cause their opponents to, quote, lose courage, or some similar phrasing to that. They become paralyzed and unable to be effective in combat. I initially suggested it was because the creature can make itself look so deliberately traumatizing that this serves as a self-defense mechanism, likening it to the titular Thing from John Carpenter's incredible film adaptation of the smash hit mobile game Among Us. But then it occurs to me that essentially there are unknown unknowns. What I mean is, have you ever heard a speaker or headphones respond with weird clicks and pops when you're getting a text message or a call? This might be anachronistic. It probably happens less now that phone and music player are more commonly one device than they were in my youth. Yes, I am basically a boomer born in Philip K. Dick's distant future early 1990s. My point is that we know there are invisible forces at work in the universe, can empirically demonstrate it, and almost assuredly there remain forces we have yet to measure or even guess at. So I guess what I'm really saying is, have you ever felt when you're being watched? Admittedly, this is some high-level esoteric autism spectrum speculation up there and related to my hyperspatially entangled mitochondria theory about why they are tireless. But if perception has an impact on physical reality, as that famous electron uncertainty experiment shows, is it possible they're somehow weaponizing this perceptual impact? Like it's a physical force affecting their victim, not a psychological reaction to their appearance or the situation. Or at least not that alone. Maybe it's a byproduct of their extra universal entanglement. Or theoretically, say I'm right, and they're powered by some hyperspace kind of fifth dimensional energy or whatever. Call it quanta to sound like bad science fiction. Considering that our brains are governed by these same laws of electron uncertainty, seem to naturally rely on them, could this quantum disruption be causing the brain shutdown we see so commonly reported in these encounters from ancient times through to today? Like the way a submarine can neutralize enemy divers or other un-American ocean life using its sonar pings, not designed as a weapon, but a useful byproduct of something it does anyway. And I would say, for lack of a better term than quantum disruption, but that's actually a perfectly bad sci-fi tier term befitting the level of speculating I'm doing. Naturally, I'm not about to take my PhD in theoretical physics on down to my first day working in the Lambda complex, and maybe I am consequently simply at the peak of Mount Stupid in the Dunning-Kruger chart on this. But, in my admitted ignorance, I cannot see what's wrong with at least the premise of being simply perceived having a measurable impact on physical reality, as these uncertainty experiments seem to imply is the case. And I'd even go so far as to say my theory that the feeling of being watched indicates what could be a response to some stimuli, our brains recognizing the altered electron activity caused by the new observer, something like that, is not too far-fetched to be plausible. However, the hyperspatially entangled mitochondria creating a perceptual weapon that impacts the quantum computing ability of the brain is kinda out there, so I won't expect you to come along with me on it. Unless you feel like it and enjoy speculating about this kind of stuff as much as I do. And you know, I bet Roanoke would have an interesting opinion on this. I mean, I know he has an opinion on what the feeling of being watched is already, but I wonder what his take on my theory would be. I'm not saying his is wrong. I think that may explain some of it, but I think there's cases where his take can't explain it. So, yeah, I'm curious. Maybe Senpai will notice me. Anyways, that's all I've got for you. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Support me over on Patreon. And yeah, peace.